As revealed within the Essential Guide to Warfare, when the Republic was significantly threatened either by its own leaders who attempted to gain power for themselves, or by those outside of the Republic such as the Sith, the Jedi Order would have to make a tremendously difficult decision, deciding if the survival of the Republic required the Jedi to intervene directly. At numerous points in the history of the Republic, the Jedi decided that it was necessary, and in the years and months leading up to the Clone War, the Jedi would once again have to consider what role they would undertake as the Republic was confronted by the Separatists. In the end, the Jedi Order would of course decide to intervene, taking on a new role where the Jedi became officers within the Republic's Grand Army. This decision was motivated by a number of factors, which included the threat faced by the Republic through the growing strength of the Separatists, the emergence of a new powerful army with the Republic not being able to provide the necessary leadership that was required, the fact that the Separatists were led by a former Jedi in Dooku, and Palpatine directly asking the Jedi to take on this new role. Therefore, the Jedi chose to intervene directly, taking on new responsibilities as they fought in the galactic conflict. However, this decision caused a rift to emerge within the Jedi Order. While the Order decided to take action, numerous Jedi saw their new roles within the Republic's Grand Army as a betrayal of important Jedi principles, resulting in numerous Jedi being confronted by a path leading to the dark side of the Force. Although the Essential Guide to Warfare is Legends, these points connect very well to the story of one particular Jedi within canon, this Jedi being Qui-Gon Jinn. In today's video, I want to look at a few conclusions made by Qui-Gon more than a decade before the emergence of the Clone War, as seen within the current canon. We'll then explain why I think these findings by Qui-Gon allow us to say that had Qui-Gon survived the events of Episode 1 and into the era of the Clone War, he would not have fought in the galactic conflict, seeing it as not just a betrayal of the important principles of the Jedi Order, but also as something that would only assist the dark side, thereby being something that destroyed balance. I will note at the beginning here that this story is found within the Qui-Gon Age of Republic comic issue, which is part of the current canon. The issue opens with Qui-Gon on the planet of Bryn, defending himself and Thur, who is also known as the Priestess of Wood, from incoming blaster bolts with his lightsaber, with Qui-Gon recognizing it was best they kept moving. After alerting Obi-Wan that they were heading towards him, and thus he should prepare their ship, Qui-Gon and Thur soon found themselves surrounded, with a member of an organization known as the Metal Clan threatening that one way or another, the planet's trees would be removed, which was an outcome Thur wanted to avoid. At that point, the Priestess of Wood found confidence in the presence of Qui-Gon, indicating that even though they were surrounded, her opponents wouldn't be able to confront the strength and power of a Jedi. However, instead of fighting, Qui-Gon carried out his original plan and escaped with the help of Obi-Wan, expressing that he was sent to the planet to find a peaceful outcome, and under the circumstances, that wasn't possible at the time. Having successfully escaped and deciding to go back to Coruscant, Thur was furious, telling Qui-Gon she couldn't abandon her trees to the Metal Clan. Qui-Gon pointed out that even the Metal Clan recognized the trees could only be harmed through her word or her blood, and therefore, the outcome she feared wasn't possible. Having returned to Coruscant, Qui-Gon noted that Thur would be safe there, but she didn't hold back in telling Qui-Gon what she wanted the eventual outcome to be. She wanted him to settle the dispute by striking down every member of the Metal Clan with his lightsaber, thereby ending the conflict. When Qui-Gon pointed out that that wasn't the Jedi way, she responded by saying she had thought the Jedi were great warriors, but the current situation only hinted at their cowardice. We then see Qui-Gon at the Jedi Temple, who is then approached by Yoda, who sensed a significant amount of turmoil within Qui-Gon, something that wasn't new. Qui-Gon expressed his concerns regarding the words from Thur, which only reinforced and bolstered concerns he already had. Attempting to help Qui-Gon, Yoda told him he wasn't a coward, as the escape from her planet was necessary. But Qui-Gon was adamant. It wasn't being called a coward that bothered him, but instead being called a great warrior. As Qui-Gon explained, this indicated that throughout the galaxy, even on Coruscant itself, the purpose of the Jedi Order wasn't understood, as they were primarily connected with combat and the Republic, with the Force receiving little attention. While Yoda attempted to explain that the Force being mysterious to many meant that those who used the Force were often misunderstood, Qui-Gon was quick to point out that it was the actions of the Jedi that was a reflection of their purpose. Because of this, Qui-Gon considered that the Jedi Council being present upon Coruscant might be contributing to the problem, as it caused many to view the Jedi as a weapon of the Republic, something that even members of the Jedi Order were likely to believe. While Yoda noted that the council wouldn't agree with Qui-Gon's position, Qui-Gon concluded by stating he understood that, but while it could be the council or himself, he believed there was a loss of vision. Yoda then suggested that when questions like these arose, one needed to find a deeper understanding from the Force, a point Qui-Gon didn't hesitate to agree with. With that, recognizing Coruscant wasn't the proper place to find a deeper understanding through the Force, Qui-Gon entered his starfighter and allowed the Force to guide him, trusting the will of the Force to take him towards the answers he was looking for as he entered hyperspace. Eventually, Qui-Gon arrived at a planet he recognized had been charted but which had no designation. Further, it was a planet that had no evidence of technology, but it did have an abundance of life. Heading towards the surface of the planet, Qui-Gon would look to discover why the Force brought him there. Walking upon the surface of the planet, Qui-Gon found that while it was a beautiful place, he was able to sense something that felt wrong and cold, a corruption and darkness upon the planet that was spreading. Finding this, Qui-Gon questioned if he was brought there to try to stop it or to learn from it. Ultimately, Qui-Gon found a place upon the planet, what he referred to as a dark monument that was strong in the dark side of the Force, again wondering if there was a potential lesson there. Looking for answers from the living Force, Qui-Gon entered the monument strong in the dark side, wondering if perhaps even there he was meant to find light. While meditating, Qui-Gon eventually opened his eyes to find himself within a vision, finding himself within a place that was very different from the one he'd been in previously. Standing, Qui-Gon quickly found himself confronted by 5 beings, who looked similar to the corruption he previously recognized was spreading across the planet. As the beings surrounded him, Qui-Gon quickly ignited his lightsaber to defend himself. Eventually, Qui-Gon would strike each of them down with his lightsaber, leaving them on the ground around him. However, Qui-Gon would soon be shocked to find that the beings he just engaged in combat weren't simply manifestations of some type of corruption, but were very much recognizable individuals, who also appeared to be wearing Jedi robes just as he was. Then, looking down at his hands, Qui-Gon saw that the same red element that was spreading across the planet, and which appeared to have consumed the individuals he just fought, was now also consuming him. As it moved from his hands to overtake him, a fearful Qui-Gon could do nothing but scream, as he ultimately appeared to be entirely overwhelmed by it. At that point, Qui-Gon would exit the vision, recognizing it was exactly that, and despite the fact that he was clearly shaken by what he witnessed, it appears that he began wondering what the vision could mean. However, Qui-Gon soon noticed something important. The light found its way into the monument, and as he emerged onto the surface of the planet again, Qui-Gon understood that balance had been achieved. But even more important, Qui-Gon realized that it was achieved through something beyond conflict, concluding that it was violence itself that allowed the dark side to grow and expand. Going back to his initial concerns about the purpose of the Jedi Order, Qui-Gon went even further, concluding that if left unchecked, the Jedi could themselves become that which they fought against. Traveling back to Coruscant, the issue ends with Qui-Gon and Yoda again having a conversation, with Yoda asking if Qui-Gon was able to find the answers he was looking for. Qui-Gon confirmed he did, but importantly, doesn't reveal what they were, only that as was often the situation with the Force, he was presented with only more questions. Yoda concluded this was a good thing, as he and Qui-Gon both found that there was a risk in being too rigid and too certain in one's understanding. As Yoda noted that the Jedi must ensure they didn't bend towards the dark side, which was already a threat, Qui-Gon agreed, recognizing that there was no balance to be found upon the path of the dark side, confirming that the purpose of the Jedi should always be to achieve balance. Through this understanding discovered by Qui-Gon, I think we can confidently say that this unique perspective regarding the purpose of the Jedi Order, the achievement of balance, and the conditions that allowed for the growth of the dark side of the Force would have resulted in Qui-Gon refusing to fight within the Clone War if he survived the events of Episode 1. The way in which Qui-Gon was guided by the Force towards this lesson, something that appears to be similar to Qui-Gon and Yoda's discovery of the Force priestesses and their ultimate ability to retain their consciousness after death, is important and would have clearly been instructive for Qui-Gon afterwards. The vision demonstrated the dangers of the Jedi fighting a galactic conflict, as Qui-Gon completely recognized that the Jedi choosing a purpose that made them warriors of the Republic, which is what they became during the Clone War, would distance them from a purpose committed to balance, with Qui-Gon understanding that violence itself was what allowed the dark side to grow and expand. Instead, Qui-Gon would be committed to a purpose defined by balance, and not one that made the Jedi warriors, or an order that acted with a focus on furthering the Republic, thereby positioning him against the Jedi High Council, especially knowing that violence like that led to the growth of the dark side, which became even more important in the years after Episode 1 when the Sith and their influence emerged even more. We can utilize this story of Qui-Gon to look at a number of different questions and scenarios that might have occurred had Qui-Gon survived in Episode 1, particularly relating not just to his fighting in the Clone War, but perhaps what his influence over the High Council could have been, or what Anakin's path may have been if Qui-Gon was instructing him. But what I want to do in an upcoming video is explain how this understanding from Qui-Gon would have been viewed by the Sith, explaining why it would have been a serious threat to the Sith Grand Plan, given the goals of the Sith beginning with Darth Bane, and which Darth Plagueis and Darth Sidious also committed to. So there we have it, why Qui-Gon would not have fought in the Clone War. We love making these videos, so why not subscribe for more fun Star Wars theories and discussions. Also, if you enjoyed the video, think about giving a like or leaving a comment. If not for me, for interesting Clone Wars connections.